Before we go any further, if you care about historically proven land practices that rebuilt exhausted soil long before chemical fertilizers existed, subscribe to the Husbandry channel now. What follows is a reconstruction of a medieval soil amendment so effective that it transformed marginal land into productive fields within a single season. This was not superstition or luck. It was a carefully balanced ash blend, applied with restraint and timing, and it explains why medieval farms could recover depleted soil without destroying its biological foundation. Why medieval farmers treated ash as a living input rather than waste. In medieval Europe, ash was not discarded casually. It was collected, stored, aged and blended. Farmers understood that ash carried the mineral memory of plants that had already grown successfully in their region. When returned to soil correctly, it completed a cycle rather than disrupting it. Poor soils, stripped by erosion or overuse, responded quickly because ash addressed mineral imbalance rather than forcing growth artificially. Why raw ash alone could ruin soil if misused? Medieval farmers learned through hard experience that spreading fresh ash directly onto fields could burn crops and sterilize soil. Ash is highly alkaline and rich in soluble salts. Applied incorrectly, it kills microbial life. This is why ash was never used alone. It was blended, buffered and aged before touching the field. The power of the method lay in moderation and preparation. Now, let's talk about what the medieval ash blend actually contained. The foundation was hardwood ash, usually from oak, beech or fruit trees. Softwood ash, on the other hand, was used sparingly due to its higher resin content. To this ash, farmers added animal manure, composted plant waste, and sometimes clay-rich soil or river silt. The whole mixture was dampened and allowed to rest. During this resting period, the alkalinity softened, soluble nutrients bound to organic matter, and microbial life recolonized the blend. You know, this was not fertilizer in the modern sense. It was actually a soil activator. So, why did aging the blend change everything? Well, fresh ash is chemically aggressive, but aged ash becomes biologically compatible. Over the course of weeks or even months, calcium and potassium bind into forms that plants can absorb without shock. Microbes also establish themselves, using the organic material as shelter from the high alkalinity. When applied to soil, the blend no longer burned life, it actually fed it. And honestly, modern growers can replicate this by mixing cooled wood ash into compost and allowing it to mature before use. Why did poor soils respond so dramatically, you might wonder? Well, degraded soils often suffer from mineral depletion and acidic imbalance. The ash blend corrected both. Calcium improved soil structure, allowing air and water to penetrate. Potassium supported root development and disease resistance. Trace minerals restored enzymatic processes in soil microbes. Once biology restarted, fertility increased rapidly. In fact, fields described as dead in medieval records often produced usable harvests within a year of ash blend application. Now, you might wonder why this method worked so well without the need for deep tillage. Well, the blend was simply spread lightly on the surface and over time allowed to wash in with the rain. Earthworms and microbes took over from there, carrying nutrients downward quite naturally. This gentle approach actually preserved the soil structure and, importantly, prevented erosion. There was no need for digging, because with renewed biological activity, the soil began to loosen itself from within. So, why did medieval farmers apply ash in cycles rather than every single year? Ash, you see, was never meant to be a routine amendment. Instead, it was used strategically, often just once every several years. Overusing ash could harden the soil and, honestly, reduce its fertility. Farmers of the time paid close attention to how their plants responded, and would stop applying ash once the right balance had returned. This kind of restraint really is what made the method sustainable rather than destructive. So, how can modern growers apply this knowledge responsibly? First, only use ash from untreated wood. It's best to blend it with compost or manure before application. Always apply it thinly, never heavily. Focus on acidic or depleted soils, not healthy ground. Then, follow with organic matter and living plants to help stabilize those improvements. When used correctly, this method, it reduces dependency on synthetic fertilizers and actually rebuilds soil resilience, rather than exhausting it. Now, why did industrial agriculture replace ash blends with chemicals? Well, ash blends required judgment, patience, and a fair bit of local knowledge. Industrial fertilizers, on the other hand, promised uniform results and, fast growth. But they bypassed soil biology rather than restoring it. Over time, this led to dependency and decline. The medieval method, by contrast, focused on long-term soil health, not just short-term yield spikes. So, why does this forgotten blend matter now? As soils worldwide lose organic matter and biological diversity, mineral imbalance becomes harder to correct with chemicals alone. The medieval ash blend it offers a reminder that fertility begins with balance, not force. This was never a miracle ingredient. It was a system built on observation, restraint, and, above all, respect for soil life. If you want more historically grounded farming knowledge that still works under real conditions, subscribe to the Husbandry channel and help preserve these practices. And do share this guide with growers, historians, and land stewards who understand that sometimes the most powerful solutions are the ones history has already tested and trusted.